Day by day, things have a tendency to get monotonous, boring, routine. Feels like one day is the same as the next, which is the same as the one before it.
But there are things that we can incorporate into our life to make it so that each day has purpose and meaning.
And we do this by making a ritual out of everyday occurrences. Welcome back to WizNugs. Today we're talking about the power of everyday rituals. Now, we're not talking about the power of like some kind of arcane ritual where you're drawing symbols and...
Yeah, we're not talking about like offering up our souls.
We're talking about adding meaning by making the mundane special.
We already have something that we do kind of along those lines that adds a special thing to our work week, and that's what we refer to as Bagel Day. We go to the bagel shop, and we're very fortunate to have it really close to where we work, and we're able to go in there, get our bagels that are freshly made, probably like an hour or so ago.
Hot and fresh and delicious.
And they have great schmear, and you get what you want, I get what I want.
But they're only open Thursday through Sunday.
And I think it's very fortunate, that when I look back on that we just picked Thursday as the day to do it. And I wasn't even cognizant.
Oh, I was.
Oh, I wasn't even cognizant.
Because I had tried to go there on a Wednesday.
Oh.
And they're closed. I tried to go there on a Monday, and they're closed.
And I don't think that was their original schedule. I think this was something that came out of COVID. But I can't really say that that's true or not. Regardless, it's a special thing. And every day that we go and get it, it's great. We go to work right afterwards. We get to hopefully have enough time to get our bagels toasted and ready to go and got the smear on it. And then we're having the meeting, and then we're munching away as we're waiting for it's our turn to speak.
And morning meetings are that much better with a hot, toasty, delicious bagel.
Looking at it from a third-person point of view, what's so special about this? What's special about a bagel? You're still at work. You're still having to do the meeting. You're still having to go through the same monotony that you go through on a regular basis. So why is there anything different about this bagel and this particular ritual?
So this concept first came to my attention through learning about the Japanese tea ceremony.
Okay.
Now, I want to stay right up front. I'm not an expert, and I didn't study this like in depth, but the gist of it, as I understand it, is that making tea is generally a pretty straightforward concept, right?
Right. I mean, for me, I totally do the American thing, if you would. I put water in a cup or a glass, and I put it in the microwave.
What?
I know, right? there is no pomp and circumstance to how I make tea at all. I've seen this done in movies or shows, but has no relevance to me.
I spent some time in England, so I see the electric kettle over there.
Okay.
So I had to get one when I came home.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically the point is you boil water, you put your tea leaves or your tea bag or whatever inside the water, and you let it steep, and then it's a drink.
Yeah.
Add whatever else you're going to add to it, sugar, milk, whatever. The Japanese tea ceremony is completely the opposite. It takes the process of making tea, and every step, every movement is practiced, it's purposeful, it has meaning, and it has...
So it has value in the end.
Yeah, so they've taken this idea of just making tea, and by being deliberate about it and being purposeful about it, it has elevated the process. And now it's a ceremony. Now, I'm not suggesting that we take every single thing, and there's the getting into bed ceremony, where there's a purposeful way of pulling back the covers exactly the same way every day to add meaning to that. But there are some things that we can specifically do. For me, in my case, I've got 2 kids that they still like to have some attention at bedtime. So we'll go and shepherd them through the process of brushing their teeth and hopefully flossing as well. And we'll do the whole thing. We'll read a story together. We'll say prayers. We'll sing a lullaby. And there's a goodnight kiss. There's a whole, it's this whole process. On the days when I'm not really feeling it, when I'm just kind of going through the motions and I'm a little bit tired or annoyed by the end of the day, and the kids say, "Hey, will you put me to bed?" Sometimes I get that in my head, like, I don't want to.
Because some of the meaning has, at least at the moment, has been drained from it or is removed from it.
Yeah, if I'm not thinking about it.
Right.
It's being purposeful that gives it meaning.
Right.
So it's in that moment where I have that option to stop and say, My kids are not always going to ask for this. They're not always going to want my attention. The fact that they do now is awesome.
Right.
And I can do this for them. I can show them this extra little bit of care and attention. And it's one more time that I get to say, I love you.
And like you said, it's that one more time. And I would add on to that, we don't know when the last time you do it is going to be the last time you do it. Because kids get older, they don't necessarily want you in their room anymore. Or you're like, I can take care of myself. I'm a big kid now, Toys R Us, thank you, Jeffrey. The need to want to have the parent doing that for you, it's no longer the first thing on your mind. Like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. I don't actually need to have my parents in there. And there was a time when my kids, when they were that age, wanted us to either be with them in their room when they went to sleep, or be with us, and we had to pick them up and carry them to their room.
Right.
But now they're much older, and of course that's not even a thing anymore. And now I reminisce on the days that they asked us, and like, I do miss those days. I'm happy where they're at now, but I miss those days.
I'm reminded of a quote from Maya Angelou, who's a poet, who said, people will forget, I'm going to butcher it. I'll put it up on screen if I can. Something along the lines of, people will forget what you did, people will forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel.
Right.
Especially your kids. I added the your kids part.
On that, really quick, I saw a video of a parent was talking with his two sons and was trying to get them to reminisce on some previous birthdays that they had. And they can recall the friends and the way that they felt, and they had a good time, so on and so forth, but neither one of them could remember the gifts that they were given, because those things have only the monetary value, or at least I would like to have this particular thing. And it might have been a game, it could have been who knows what, but it was only the thing that they wanted at the time, and now that they have it, the need and the desire is gone, and so it fades.
That stuff ends up just being stuff eventually.
Focus on building the memories, because that is what is going to last. When you ask them about the past, they're going to remember the good time that they had, the friends that were surrounding them, and that their parents are there and supported them and made this happen. That's what they're going to remember. They're not going to remember what video game they got. They're not going to remember what trendy piece of clothing that was given to them. They're going to remember the time that they had and the people that were there.
And the feeling of support, like you said.
When we move forward, when we want to create rituals, if we're having the feeling that every day is kind of mundane and we want to give it purpose and meaning, besides having like personal goals, what are some of the things that we can do to ritualize, if that's a word, a particular thing that we do every day?
So one thing that comes to mind is sleep routine.
Okay.
That sleep is one of those things that has such a far-reaching effect on our lives. It can be so huge if you're not getting sleep, or if you're getting bad sleep, or if you're uncomfortable while you're sleeping. It's something that there's numerous books written about. We talk about how important it is to get exercise and fresh air and sunshine. Sleep is right up there at the top of the list with nutrition for what our bodies require. So if we take this and we, instead of being, at the end of the day, I scroll on my phone until I just feel so exhausted, and I look at the time and I go, oh no, and then I worry about what I'm going to do tomorrow, and then I worry about what's happening at work, and then I've had screens in my face all day, so it's really, really hard to sleep, and my brain's all tuned to blue light, and all the different things that we hear about can just keep you up all night just worrying. Mm-hmm. And then you don't get the sleep that you need. So one way of using the power of ritual to make a change here is turn it into a thing. Make it a set of steps that you do the same every night at the same time that you brush your teeth, you floss, you put on your pajamas, you lay out your clothes for the next day. Maybe do a little bit of journaling. Write down the things that happened that day and the things that you were grateful for that day. We can work in gratitude practice into this too. Make plans for the next day. And then lay down with the lights off, go to sleep.
Now, what I try to do as a part of a ritual thing is when I'm getting into the bed and my wife is already there or coming to bed as well, is to take a few minutes, 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending, and talk to each other about how was your day. I don't always get to the opportunity to do it as soon as I get home. It depends, right? Sometimes I have a big drive coming home, and by the time I get there, I'm just tired. I want to eat, and I want to just kind of decompress and then do my thing. So, and then she might be helping her parents. She might be doing something else, doing something with the kids. Who knows what? So we try to make it a point that right before we're actually going to turn the lights off, is that we talk about what happened during the day, right? How was work for you? What happened with your parents? Did there anything that came up that is a concern, or do you wanted to talk about because it was a good thing or a bad thing? And then I'll talk about what happened with me, what I'm dealing with, new people assigned to the team, how they're driving me crazy, those kind of things, right? But we get to have that communication. And then we're making sure that we're maintaining our relationship.
Making connection part of the routine.
Right. And because we truly do care about the other person, there's sometimes it's just we don't have the time during the day. So make it a ritual at night to have that communication with your significant other so you can maintain that connection.
Yeah, I like it.
Another thing that I do that's kind of a ritual thing is when I come into the office, I get my cup of coffee. And my cup of coffee requires my Splenda, it requires half and half, and it also requires me to talk to the person who is the supplier of the coffee at the coffee bar section. She gathers up the money. She goes to the store and buys the thing. So I'll spend about 5 minutes. She usually has a meeting that's coming up relatively quickly, so I try to get it within that 5-minute time frame because I also have a meeting that's coming up around that same time frame. And so I'll ask her how things are going. How's the money stuff going on? Is there anything I can do to help facilitate the area? She comes to me for like, I was thinking we have extra money. What do you think about getting a refrigerator for this section? I'm like, yeah. Or we can do this thing, maybe put up a little section for a pastry bar thing if we get enough, right? Those kind of things.
Yeah.
Just how can we make the office have a little bit more friendly thing? So instead of coming in and you're getting the pot of coffee and you pour it and maybe it was made.
Everyone complains about how awful it is.
Yeah, right. And maybe it's very old and it's been sitting there since yesterday. Who knows? No, little K cup section, and so it's always hot and fresh. There's a little thing of water, and everyone takes their turn when the water's low to go over there and refill up the water. But taking that little bit of time and then talking to the person, how things going for you? What's going on in your life? Any big events? So there's meaning in the effort of just getting the cup of coffee besides just, I need to have a cup of coffee in order to be able to operate today. It's like, no, I'm going to give it purpose. And it's going to be my time to be able to socialize minimally with this person who probably actually, based on our interactions, enjoys that interaction because it's a nice little start to the day that's like, okay, this is not monotonous at all.
Another one that comes to mind is we work in software development, as we've mentioned before.
Right.
That the agile process is all about these little rituals for marking off different parts of the process.
Right.
So we work in 2-week sprints, they call them, and we're working on different tasks throughout the time. So at the beginning, you've got these meetings where you're grooming and you're deciding what tasks you're going to be doing through that week. Then at the end, you have a sprint retrospective where you meet together as a team and talk about what went well and what didn't go well and things you could improve on together, maybe tweaks you could make to your process. These little things, they actually refer to them as rituals in the official methodologies.
Right.
So that when you're doing these things, that helps your team to be high functioning. And when you forget these things and you stop doing them, your team starts to kind of dwindle in morale.
Right. So when we create these new rituals, again, we're not going to get these fantastical powers and abilities that we never had before, but we are going to be able to give ourselves purpose and meaning and actually joy. And that's a great thing to have, especially when you get into a feeling of, I feel like I'm not doing anything that has meaning.
There's nothing mystical about turning the mundane into a ritual, but it can add meaning and power. So thanks for joining us on WizNugs. We'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us today on WizNugs. If you liked what you heard, spread the word. For more information, head over to mywiznugs.com.